He replaced me before the bed sheets cooled, before my perfume even faded from his skin. They said it was love, quick, passionate, undeniable. But love built on ashes always smells like smoke. I watched them from afar, smiling, laughing, pretending the past didn't exist. They forgot. I was the one who taught him how to love. And her? She was just reciting my lines, wearing my memories, living my story. But time has a way of turning silence into storms. And when it comes, it never knocks twice. But before I continue, make sure you're subscribed to the Revenge by Sophia channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We love to see how far our stories travel. The first time she saw their picture together, it was by accident. It appeared on her phone screen, a smiling post everyone was liking, sharing, praising. Her ex's arm around a new woman's waist. The same beach they once called their place. The same sunset. The same caption he once wrote for her. Her chest tightened. The sound around her dulled. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, even her own breathing seemed to vanish. For a long moment, she just stared. It wasn't heartbreak this time. It was something colder, something still. She whispered softly, "So soon?" The words barely left her lips. Her hands trembled, but her eyes, they didn't. They stayed fixed, absorbing every pixel, every trace of imitation. Somewhere deep inside, she felt it. This wasn't just a new beginning for him. It was an erasure. And erasures, she knew, always leave marks. By morning, everyone knew. The neighbors talked. Friends sent awkward texts, pretending not to pity her. Someone even said, "At least he looks happy now." She smiled politely, nodded, and said nothing. But inside, a quiet echo began to grow, not of sadness, but of realization. She wasn't just replaced. She was rewritten. Everywhere she went, there they were, in whispers and photos, in the faint scent of her old perfume now clinging to someone else. The new woman laughed the same, dressed the same, even wore her favorite earrings, the ones she thought she'd lost. One evening, she stood outside his house from across the street. The lights flickered inside, laughter, silhouettes, music. Her reflection shimmered faintly in his window, almost ghost-like. "Do you see me?" she whispered. But no one looked up. That night, she sat in the dark, staring at her old journal. Page after page of memories, all written in ink, not pixels. Every word was proof that she had once been real, that she had mattered. She began to tear the pages out one by one. Slowly, deliberately. Each rip echoed in the silence, like the sound of something breaking. Not paper, but patience. Her phone buzzed, another post. Another picture of them. This time, he had captioned it, "Found my forever." She laughed, a small, breathless laugh that didn't sound like her own. In that moment she decided. She wouldn't message him. She wouldn't cry. She wouldn't beg. Instead, she whispered, "Forever is a long time, let's see how long it lasts." And for the first time since the breakup, her heart stopped aching. It began planning. It happened in the most ordinary place, the market near the old bakery, where she used to buy fresh bread on Sundays. She turned down the aisle for milk, and there she was, the new girl. At first, she didn't recognize her, just another stranger. But when the woman laughed, a sharp, familiar sound sliced through the air. It was her laugh. The same pitch, the same pause at the end. She froze, her fingers tightening around the shopping basket. The new girl picked up a bouquet, white lilies her favorite, and smiled down at her phone. Probably texting him. She wore a soft beige coat, the same one he once said made her look like autumn itself. For a long moment, they stood in the same aisle, back to back. A mirror without glass. And when the new girl turned slightly, their eyes almost met, almost. But she looked right through her, like she didn't exist. The air in the aisle felt heavier, colder. She walked away quietly, but something inside her whispered, "She's living my life." Over the next few weeks, she started noticing it everywhere. The way the new girl tied her hair, the color of her lipstick, even the way she tilted her head when smiling. All identical. It wasn't coincidence. It was rehearsal. Friends would talk about how perfect the new couple seemed, how different he looked now, calmer, happier. But when she saw their photos, she didn't see happiness. She saw repetition. Her old world, rebuilt with cheaper bricks. She scrolled through their pictures late at night, comparing every pose, every caption. The same park, the same bench, the same dog he once promised they'd adopt together. It was like watching a stranger perform her memories. Her chest burned, but not from heartbreak. It was rage, slow, deliberate, patient. And in that fire, something inside her woke up. One evening, she stood before her mirror, studying her own face under dim light. The reflection stared back, pale, tired, but still alive. "You took everything," she whispered to her reflection. "My voice, my clothes, my love." Then, softer, "But you'll never take my truth." Her fingers trailed over the mirror's edge. That's when an idea began to take shape, fragile at first, then steady. If the new girl wanted to live her life so badly, she would let her. She would watch as she drowned in it. Because there's a difference between being remembered and being known. He might have replaced her, but he could never forget her. And the new girl, she'd soon understand what it meant to play a role written in someone else's pain. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, distant, but growing closer. And she smiled. "Let's begin," she whispered to the storm. That night, the rain didn't stop. It slid down her window in crooked lines, distorting the city lights outside. The world looked blurred, like it was crying with her. She sat at her desk, an old wooden one scarred with scratches from years before. A single candle flickered beside her, its flame bending every time the wind whispered through the cracks in the glass. Her hand hovered over a blank page. The ink pen trembled slightly. She started to write, not to him, but to the memory of him. Each word bled into the paper like something living, something aching. "You said I was unforgettable, but it looks like forgetting me was easy for you." The candle hissed, melting faster. She kept writing, anger, sorrow, betrayal, until the words filled the page like confessions in a diary no one should read. When she finally looked at it, her chest tightened. It wasn't a love letter anymore. It was a warning. And still, she folded it neatly, as if someone, somewhere, might one day need to read it. Days passed. The letter stayed hidden inside her dresser drawer, beneath a silk scarf he once gifted her. Every night, she would open it, reread it, trace the edges of the paper, her fingers remembering every tear that never fell. Sometimes she'd whisper the words softly, imagining him hearing them. "You think she's different, but she laughs like me. She loves like me. She'll leave like me." The sound of her voice in the quiet room sent shivers up her spine. There was something dangerous about the calm she felt while reading it, like she was speaking a prophecy. One night, she considered mailing it. She even wrote his address. But her hand froze at the edge of the envelope. No, not yet. The time wasn't right. Instead, she placed it back inside the drawer. "Some truths," she murmured, "shouldn't travel too soon." And for the first time, she didn't cry before sleeping. She smiled, faintly, eerily, like someone who'd found a secret weapon. A week later, she dreamed of him. He was standing by the same old bridge where they used to meet, fog curling around him like smoke. He looked lost, confused. When he turned, he said her name, but his voice echoed strangely, hollow and distant. She woke up with her heart pounding, the image burned into her mind. Something about the dream felt more like a memory than a fantasy, as if he'd truly been there, calling for her. She went to the dresser, opened the drawer, and looked at the letter again. The paper had yellowed slightly, as if touched by time too soon. The ink looked darker, almost alive. A cold wind slipped through the window, snuffing out the candle's flame. She held the letter close to her chest and whispered, "Soon, you'll remember me, whether you want to or not." In the silence that followed, the faintest sound echoed from somewhere in the house. A door creaking open. She found herself walking the same old streets again, the ones that still whispered his name. The bakery, the corner cafe, the bookstore that still displayed the novel he once gifted her. Everything looked the same and yet not. The world felt colder now, as if it had forgotten warmth the way he forgot her. At the cafe, she sat in their usual corner. The seat across from her was empty, but her mind filled it easily. She could still see him there, smiling, teasing, stirring sugar into his coffee. The memory was so vivid that she almost smiled back. Almost. Then her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "Do you still go there?" She froze. Her breath hitched. The cafe lights flickered once, twice, and for a moment, she thought she saw his silhouette outside the window, watching. When she blinked, it was gone. But her pulse wouldn't slow. At night, she began hearing things. Not voices, not exactly. More like echoes. The sound of laughter from the hallway, the faint strum of his guitar in the next room. When she opened the door, it was always empty. Always silent again. Her apartment started feeling smaller, as if the walls themselves remembered him. She would wake to the scent of his cologne hanging in the air, faint, ghostly, impossible. One night, she found his old jacket in the closet, the one she swore she burned after he left. Her fingers brushed against it, and a photo slipped from the pocket. It was the two of them, smiling under the same bridge from her dream. But something was wrong. The edges of the photo were smudged, and behind them, faintly visible, was another woman's face. The new girl. She dropped the photo, heart pounding. Had she ever given him that picture? Had it ever even existed before tonight? The next morning, she didn't hide anymore. She went out dressed in the coat he once loved, her hair the way she used to wear it when he said she looked like the past he never wanted to lose. People looked at her differently, a mix of confusion and recognition. She walked past him on the street that day. He didn't notice her at first, until her perfume drifted past. He turned. Their eyes met for just a second, but that was enough. His smile faltered. He looked haunted. The new girl was beside him, holding his arm, asking something softly. He didn't answer. His eyes were still fixed on her, the ghost who wasn't supposed to exist anymore. She smiled, calm, knowing, and just a little cruel. Then she whispered under her breath as she walked away, "Remember me now?" That night, the same message appeared again on her phone. "I never forgot." At first, it was small, almost invisible. The kind of fracture only the heart can sense. She saw it through their photos, smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes, laughter that looked practiced, hands held too tightly, as if afraid to slip. Every post, every caption screamed perfection. Yet, to her, it looked desperate. Forced. Fragile. He had always been good at pretending to love, pretending to move on. But pretending forever? That was impossible. Sometimes, late at night, he'd look out the window and swear he saw her reflection in the glass. The way she used to stand there, silent, patient, watching. And though he told himself it was his imagination, he began drawing the curtains before bed. The cracks had started to show, not on the walls of his home, but in the spaces between his lies. One evening, the new girl asked him softly, "Why do you keep looking over your shoulder?" He laughed it off, but his voice was thin, uneasy. "Habit," he said. Nothing more. But she noticed it too, the shadows that lingered too long, the mirrors that seemed to hum faintly at night. Sometimes she'd wake to find him sitting at the edge of the bed, staring into nothing, whispering a name in his sleep. Not hers. The name made her chest tighten. She'd never met the woman who came before her, but she could feel her presence, everywhere. In the house, in him, in the air itself. The past was still alive, and she was living inside it. One night, she opened his drawer, and found an old photograph folded neatly inside. The same woman she had seen before. Same eyes. Same smile. Same coat. She turned to him and whispered, trembling, "Why do you still have this?" He had no answer. Only silence. And that silence said everything. Across the street, hidden in the dark, the first woman stood by her window, watching them. The lights inside their home flickered, the sound of muffled voices spilling into the night. She could see the new girl pacing, angry, hurt, while he stood motionless, holding that same photo. She didn't smile. She didn't move. She just watched, calm and still, like someone who already knew how this story would end. The wind rustled the trees, carrying faint echoes of their argument, pieces of sentences, broken words. You still think about her. It's not what you. Then why do I see her everywhere? The words faded into the night, and in the silence that followed, the watcher whispered, almost kindly, because I never left. Lightning flashed brief, blinding, and when it passed, she was gone. Only the photo remained, fluttering in the wind outside their window. It was a quiet morning, the kind where the air feels too still, too heavy with things unsaid. He had been cleaning out the attic, brushing away dust and cobwebs that had gathered since she left. Boxes, old books, forgotten things, fragments of a life he no longer wanted to remember. Then he found it. A small wooden box, wrapped in a faded red ribbon. The same ribbon she once wore in her hair the day they moved in together. His breath caught. He almost didn't open it, almost. Inside lay a silver bracelet. Simple, elegant, with one word engraved on the inside. Always. He remembered the day she gave it to him. Her eyes had been shining with something pure, love, maybe faith, and she had said softly, "Don't wear it to remember me. Wear it so you never forget yourself." He hadn't seen it in years, but as he held it now, the air in the room shifted, colder, sharper, heavier. Something in that attic didn't feel empty anymore. He brought the bracelet downstairs and placed it on the kitchen table. The new girl noticed it immediately. "Where did that come from?" she asked, her voice uncertain. "Just an old thing," he said. "From before." But he didn't move it. Couldn't. It sat there between them, like a ghost made of silver and regret. That night, he dreamt again of her, standing by the lake, her hair blowing in the wind. She didn't speak, but her eyes did. They said everything he had tried to forget. When he woke up, his chest ached. The bracelet was on his wrist. He didn't remember putting it there. The new girl saw it in the morning. Her voice shook when she whispered, "Why are you wearing that?" He didn't have an answer. He only knew that taking it off felt wrong, like it would somehow wake something worse. Days turned strange after that. Objects moved when no one was near them. The lights flickered at exactly 11:11 each night, her favorite number. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, that same jasmine scent that once filled his car. The new girl began to sleep in another room. "It's like she's here," she said one night, voice trembling. "I hear her name when I'm alone." He tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked, because he heard it too. One evening, the bracelet fell from his wrist onto the floor with a metallic clang. When he picked it up, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A faint new engraving on the inside. Words that weren't there before. Still here. The room grew silent, and somewhere beyond the walls, a soft, familiar laugh echoed, the same one that first made him fall in love, and now made his heart stop. Sleep had become a stranger to him. Every time he closed his eyes, the same dream came, her standing by the lake, the moonlight shimmering on the water like shards of glass. She didn't move, didn't speak, but her eyes carried that same quiet question she never got to ask, the one that haunted him now. Why? He would wake drenched in sweat, the echo of her perfume still clinging to the sheets. The new girl grew distant. She started sleeping on the couch, complaining that the house felt wrong. Sometimes, she would wake to find him sitting upright, whispering into the dark. One night, she caught the words, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left like that." But when she asked who he was talking to, he didn't answer. He only turned his face toward the window, where faint handprints seemed to fog the glass from the outside. The tension built quietly, like thunder you hear before the rain. He began talking about the past more often, about the woman he left behind, about how she understood things no one else did. His voice trembled when he spoke her name, as if the air itself didn't want to carry it. The new girl grew restless. "You have to stop," she told him. "She's gone." But he shook his head, eyes wide, lost. "No, she's not." That night, The bracelet returned to the kitchen table, though he swore he had locked it away. Beside it lay the old letter, the same one she had written but never sent. He opened it with trembling hands, reading her words aloud until his voice broke. "You can replace me, but you'll remember me every time you lie to yourself." Tears filled his eyes. "She knew," he whispered. "She always knew." The new girl backed away slowly, her voice shaking. "What did you do to her?" He didn't answer, because the truth wasn't something he could say aloud. The next evening, rain poured harder than ever. The storm raged outside, but the air inside the house felt even heavier. He sat on the floor by the fireplace, holding the letter in one hand and the bracelet in the other. His voice trembled as he spoke into the silence. "I loved you, but I was weak. I let them tell me you were too much, too intense, too demanding. I thought I could find peace somewhere else." His voice broke. But peace doesn't come after betrayal. It never does. The candlelight flickered, and then dimmed. The air grew colder, pressing against his chest. A whisper brushed past his ear. "I know." He turned sharply, nothing. No one there. But the scent of jasmine filled the room again. He fell to his knees, tears streaking down his face. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "Please forgive me." The wind howled louder, and for a brief, impossible moment, he saw her reflection in the darkened glass, smiling softly, sadly. And then it vanished. But the new girl, standing in the doorway, had seen it too. And she whispered, trembling, "She heard you." After that night, silence became a living thing in the house. It breathed in the corners, settled under the doors, and lingered between every spoken word. The new girl began avoiding certain rooms, especially the one with the lake view. She said the mirror in there watched her back. He tried to act normal, pretend nothing had changed. But he could feel it too, that weight in the air, like someone else was listening whenever he spoke. Some mornings, he'd find the radio playing by itself. Always the same song, their song, the one he hadn't heard since the night he left her. One evening, as he passed the hallway mirror, he caught a glimpse of movement. Not his reflection, hers. She stood behind him, half hidden in the dark, eyes calm but unblinking. When he turned around, the hallway was empty. But the mirror wasn't. Her breath had fogged the glass. And 3 words were written there, faint, trembling, almost tender. "I remember you." The new girl grew paler by the day. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping. Every night she heard footsteps pacing outside her door. Sometimes whispering. Sometimes humming softly, the same melody from the old song. She begged him to leave the house, but he refused. "If she's here," he said quietly, "she wants something. Maybe peace." "Peace," the new girl hissed. "You destroyed her, and now she's destroying us." He didn't argue. He couldn't, because in his heart, he knew she was right. The haunting wasn't punishment, it was balance. Every lie he'd ever told was echoing back now, louder, truer. That night, as thunder cracked over the roof, the sound of glass shattering echoed through the house. They rushed into the living room and saw every photo of them, every framed memory, lying face down on the floor. Only one picture remained standing, the one of him and her. The new girl's voice trembled. "Why won't she let us go?" And somewhere in the dark, a soft voice whispered, "Because you never let me." After that, silence became unbearable. He stopped playing music, stopped answering calls. The house existed between breaths, waiting, watching. At night, shadows moved just beyond the candlelight. Sometimes, he'd feel a hand brush his shoulder, gentle, forgiving, almost human. The new girl finally packed her things. Her hands trembled as she zipped her suitcase. "I can't stay here," she said. "She's still with you." Maybe she never left. He didn't stop her. He couldn't even look at her. Because deep down, he knew she was right again. When the door closed behind her, the silence deepened. The house exhaled slowly, almost in relief. He sat alone in the dark, the bracelet on the table between 2 flickering candles. Then, softly, a familiar voice filled the room. Not angry, Not cruel, just unbearably calm. Now that she's gone, can you hear me? He closed his eyes, tears falling silently. Yes, he whispered. And for the first time in months, the silence answered back, with the sound of a heartbeat that wasn't his. The house had grown colder, emptier, but not peaceful. He barely ate, barely slept. The air seemed thicker each day, filled with whispers that stopped when he entered the room. It was as if the walls themselves carried her voice now, low, steady, and sad. Everywhere he turned, she was there. Her favorite mug sitting clean on the counter. Her hairbrush, still holding strands of her hair. The silver bracelet gleaming faintly even when the candles were out. One evening, unable to stand it any longer, he screamed into the silence. What do you want from me? The lights flickered once, twice, and then every candle went out. For a heartbeat, there was only darkness. Then, faintly, her voice filled the room. I want you to remember. The storm outside was wild that night, thunder rolling like distant footsteps, wind howling against the walls. He stumbled through the hallway, half mad with guilt and exhaustion, until he reached the basement door. It was slightly open. A soft light glowed from below, though he hadn't turned anything on down there in years. He descended slowly, every creak of the steps echoing like a warning. At the bottom, he saw it, an old chest, half buried beneath sheets and dust. The same chest that once held all their memories, letters, gifts, photos. He opened it, and there she was, not in flesh, but in fragments. Every note she'd written him, every piece of her he'd tried to throw away. And on top of it all, the final letter. The one she wrote the night before she disappeared. The ink was smudged, the last line incomplete. If you ever forget me, I'll... He never got to finish reading it. A cold wind swept through the basement, snuffing out the light. And in the darkness, a voice whispered right behind him. Now you'll never forget. He turned slowly, and there she was. Not a ghost, not a shadow. Just her, standing as if time had never passed. Her eyes held no hate, only sorrow. The kind that sinks deeper than anger ever could. You left me, she said softly. You promised me forever. But forever ended too soon. I was scared, he stammered. You wanted too much. No, she whispered. I wanted you to mean what you said. She stepped closer. The air grew heavy, freezing. His breath came out in clouds. He backed away, tears streaming down his face. I didn't mean to hurt you. Her expression softened, almost pitying. You didn't just hurt me. You erased me. The bracelet fell from his wrist and clattered to the floor. He bent to pick it up, but when he looked up again, she was gone. Only the faint scent of jasmine lingered, wrapping around him like smoke. And in that moment, the full truth hit him like thunder. He hadn't just replaced her. He had driven her away, into silence, into the dark. And now, the silence had come back to claim him. Days passed, though time no longer felt real inside that house. He barely moved, barely spoke. The shadows had grown familiar now, almost comforting. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It breathed with him. Sometimes, in the corner of his vision, he would see her, sitting by the window, her head turned toward the lake. Just like before. Never turning to face him. Never angry. Just there. Watching. He started leaving the door open, whispering softly into the air. I remember, okay? I remember everything. The air would grow still when he said that, as if she was listening. And sometimes when he blinked, he thought he saw her lips move, just barely. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe farewell. But it was too late for either. It was raining again. The same cold, relentless rain that had fallen the night she left. Thunder rolled far away, soft and slow, like an old memory coming back to life. He sat by the fireplace, the bracelet resting in his palm, the fire's reflection flickering in his tired eyes. I should have stayed, he whispered. I should have listened. The wind howled through the cracks in the windows, carrying faint traces of a voice. You still can. He turned sharply. The reflection in the glass wasn't his. She stood outside, soaked in rain, hair plastered to her face, The same dress, the same soft eyes. He stumbled to the door, heart pounding, but when he opened it, nothing. Only rain, falling endlessly. And on the porch lay the bracelet, glowing faintly, as if alive. He reached for it, and the world seemed to stop breathing. The fire behind him went out. The lights died. And the last thing he heard was her voice, whispering, "Now we remember together." Morning came, quiet and gray. The neighbors saw smoke curling from the chimney, but no one answered the door. When they finally went inside, the house was empty. No sign of struggle, no sign of him. Only one thing left behind on the table, a folded letter and a silver bracelet, still warm to the touch. The letter was short, almost peaceful. She wasn't gone, just waiting. "I see that now. Some loves don't end," they echo. And though the house was abandoned after that, people still said they saw two figures near the lake on stormy nights. One standing, one sitting by the window, never speaking, never leaving, just remembering. They say time heals all wounds, but they never talk about the scars that choose to stay. He lives quietly now, same house, same town, same ghosts. And sometimes, when the rain hits the windows just right, he swears he hears my laughter between the thunder. I didn't have to destroy them. I just had to let the truth do what it always does. Rise to the surface. Love built on imitation never survives. Because you can steal a face, a smile, a moment, but you can never steal a soul. And that's why even now, when they remember her, they still whisper my name.